The Jen Weigel Show.
.837 on WLL. Welcome back. JB Opdycke is in the studio. Open Primaries is who he is with. Are you too cool to put on your headphones, sir?
My bad.
You don't have to wear them if you don't want to. That's all good. I didn't know if you didn't want to mess up your hair or something.
I'm not a radio expert.
Okay. No, you're good. And here's the thing. It is the climate. 'Tis the season. Your friend Sheila Nix was on the program as we were talking about the Shadow Inc. app debacle because she is basically a political strategist and has a lot of experience in that realm and did a test of an app that was digital that did work. But she said that rollout took a long time to perfect. This is not something that we can do quickly. I mean, this has to be practiced and mastered to be able to digitally vote. And she was talking about that. But you, my friend, JB Opdycke of Open Primaries, openprimaries.org, you want to open up the process so that everybody can vote in the primaries, because that's not the case right now in every state, is it?
No, in 15 states, if you're an independent voter, you can't vote in the primaries, even though they're taxpayer funded. They're conducted as actual elections, but the parties make the rules and they shut out independents. And 30, 40 years ago, that wasn't a problem.
Right.
90% of the country was Democrat or Republican. It's a huge problem now. The new stats coming in from states like Oregon, Nevada, where they do automatic registration. You automatically get registered when you get your driver's license. 65% of new voters say they're independent.
And they can't vote in primaries.
They can't vote in primaries.
Okay.
So you have a trend in the country where the American people are saying, liberals, conservatives, you name it, are saying, I political parties don't do it for me. I don't want to be in a party. I might vote for a Democrat. I might vote for a Republican. I don't want to join the party. And yet the rules are written by the parties about how you can participate.
Wow.
And the primaries is one element of it. It's not the total picture, but it's a way in on that conversation about why are the parties running the process itself. Why
is it a problem to get the independents to vote in the primaries? I don't even understand why this is an issue. Is it just because it's been so long this way they just don't want to make a change that's even updating how the world is now?
Yes, politicians and parties are, they like predictability.
Yeah.
They like to know who their voters are in advance and what they're going to do in advance. Politicians will tell you, if they're being honest, their ideal participation level in an election would be less than 1%. So when you talk about independent voters, you're talking about a wild card. You're talking about an emerging constituency that doesn't have a track record, that's not ideologically homogenous, that's all over the place, that's looking for certain new ways of doing politics. And politicians don't like that. And they will say that. In the states where we've gotten open primaries, like California and Washington, the politicians, when they're being honest, will say, I don't like this election system because I have to work much harder in it, because I have to go talk to all the voters. I can't just talk to my little party faithful. I have to go out and talk to everybody.
Right.
That makes my job harder.
And there are so many of them, like you say, so many millennials are independents or undecided. Or actually, not just the millennials. Give me some stats on who's what right now, JB.
Well, the latest Gallup poll came out, and it showed 45% of Americans identify as independent.
Okay.
Now, that's high. It's also unusual. Typically, during a presidential campaign, the number will dip.
Okay.
Because people register Democrat or Republican to be able to vote in the presidential primaries. This is actually the first time that the number of self-identifying independents has gone up in the middle of a presidential campaign. I think that's because people are genuinely sick of how the political parties in this country subject the American people to partisan warfare 24/7, 365. We don't get a break. And people don't like it.
So now you just came from Miami. What were you doing in Miami?
Well, there's a coalition down there that is putting a referendum on the ballot. It's called All Voters Vote, Measure 3. If we get approved by the court, it will be on the ballot this November.
Okay.
And it's going to allow all voters to vote.
What a concept.
Yeah, there's 3.6 million independent voters in Florida. 40% of Hispanics are independents. These people are shut out of having a voice. And in Florida, as in many states, the primary is not just an inconsequential early election. It defines the campaign. It determines who gets to be in the debates. It determines who's going to be the front runners. It shapes the issues that are discussed. And you have 29% of the state that is shut out of having any voice in that. So we're hoping to get that on the ballot in November.
So that's with Miami. What other places are you thinking that are in crisis that you're going to try to hit before the election? How many others?
Well, we've got legislation in Maine and Pennsylvania and a bill that was just introduced in Nebraska last week. We've got an effort that's rolling out slowly in Nevada, an effort that hopefully, knock on wood, we're doing some polling, might emerge in Arkansas.
Okay.
This is a hard issue, though, to do quickly.
Absolutely.
Changing election law, if you think about this, we almost always have to go to the ballot. We can't do it through legislation.
How many years ago did you start this movement with open primaries?
Well, I started the organization 5 years ago.
Okay.
I've been working on the issue for the last 15 years. The issue really has only become mainstream in the last several years. Back in the early 2000s, there was efforts in New York City that Mike Bloomberg was very much a part of, and I helped shape that effort there. Governor Schwarzenegger out in California led an effort in California in 2004. But it's really only the last 3 or 4 years that this issue has become much more front and center around the country. Red states, blue states, purple states, you name it.
Because the independents, they're more independents. They're more vocal about it.
They are. And what's fascinating, too, is I talk to politicians all the time, and they say, it's getting increasingly impossible to do my job as an elected official because I get elected in a primary system in which I'm prevented from talking to independent voters and members of the other party in my district. If I want to get elected, I have to ignore 70% of the people in my district. And that means I can't do my job when I get to Albany or I get to Lincoln or wherever you're going. So you actually have some politicians saying we've got to open up this system so that we politicians can do our jobs and represent our constituents. And the closed system doesn't allow that.
No. How are we doing here in Illinois?
Illinois is not the worst.
Okay.
And it's not the best.
Okay. We're about mid.
Yeah. I mean, in Illinois, there's no partisan registration. So by definition, nobody is locked into a party.
Okay.
However, on primary day, you have to choose a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot. And that means that you're limited to the candidates in that party. You can't vote for a Republican for city council, a Democrat for Congress, an independent candidate for U.S. Senate. You can't go around and choose. So it's limiting. But some states where I'm from, New York, I can't vote at all in the primaries.
No.
And if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to vote for a presidential candidate in the Democratic primary, I would have had to join the Democratic Party 13 months before the primary. It's outrageous.
Right. When we were talking with Sheila Nix about the whole Shadow Ink app, and I was asking about paper, is paper ever going to go away? She says, nope, it's not, because look at all these digital hiccups. The paper is really, at the end of the day, the old school way. So that is really challenging in that right, but because we do need a record. I mean, at the end of the day, we need a record somewhere that is printable in hand that you can hold. I was talking about how I was trying to find some medical records for my son when he was 3 to 6 months old. He's 13 now. So we went to the doctor. Those records aren't there, but they are keeping them in a warehouse, in a hospital, in a basement somewhere so that you can go and find them. So this is good. But as you say, with your challenge here with open primaries, if you're just joining us right now, openprimaries.org, JB Opdycke started this organization 5 years ago to try to get everybody the ability to vote in the primaries, no matter what party you're from. And right now, nobody who's an independent can vote in those primaries. It's pretty unbelievable in all the primaries, right? So how many states can they and how many states can't they? Do you have that statistic?
I do. It's roughly 1/3 of the states you can't, 2/3 of the states you can, but the states that you can put all kinds of restrictions on how you can. Like in Illinois, like I said, they allow you to vote in the primaries, but they limit the choices of which candidates you can choose from. Really, where we've really moved the needle is California, Washington State, and Nebraska, where they have gotten rid of party primaries altogether.
Got it.
So there's no longer a Democratic primary and a Republican primary. There's a public primary. All the candidates are on the ballot. All the voters get to vote. the two most popular candidates, regardless of party, go on to the general election. It's been a huge game changer in Washington, Nebraska, and California, and that's what we're looking to expand around the country.
How's Wisconsin doing? Our
Wisconsin
neighbors.
is like Illinois. They
Okay.
have nonpartisan registration. You can vote in the primary, but again, you're forced into a box. So they allow you in the door, but then they say you can only participate in this way or that way. And voters increasingly are looking for ways to express themselves politically that are not so cookie cutter, that are not so defined by these parties.
And what about Indiana, our other Midwest neighbors?
You know, in the Midwest, and I say this as a proud Midwesterner
Yes.
who moved to New York the day after I graduated college.
Okay.
Most states in the Midwest don't have party registration when you register to vote. You just register to vote.
Okay.
Half the states in the country, when you register to vote, you are forced to join a political party or say, I don't want to be in a party. And then when you do that, you become a second-class citizen.
Right.
So the Midwest is better. But again, you still have the problem of party primaries,
Right.
that you're not allowing voters to choose from all the candidates. That's what people want. And that's what really shakes things up. Where we've done that in California, it is a absolute change when you are running for office and your electorate is not just people in your own party.
Right.
In the primary, when you know, if you're a Democrat, you know a Republican can vote for you, an independent can vote for you, a Democrat can vote for you. That changes how you campaign, what your message is, what organizations you reach out to. It changes the whole chemistry of how politics is done. In most states, including Illinois, people only campaign to the faithful. They campaign to people that are in their box.
Right.
And all that does is reinforce the mistrust, the partisanship, the acrimony. It doesn't bring people together in new ways. I would add to that, though, if you look at Chicago has nonpartisan open primaries for mayor,
Okay.
which is good. There's
Yeah.
no Democratic there's
just
a
everybody can
nonpartisan
vote.
system. Part of what you saw Lori Lightfoot do in this last election was take her message to African-American Democrats, and she went on conservative talk radio.
Right.
She went to business groups and veterans groups, and she went to community groups and social service agencies. She was able in her nonpartisan system to say, I want to talk to all Chicagoans. I want to bring people together against party lines. You can't do that in a partisan system.
All right. Hold on a second. We've got a question here from Lloyd. Let's pull up Lloyd here on WLS. Hey, Lloyd. You're
Hi, Jen.
on.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay, digging your show. Hey, listen, one thing that what the guy's talking about, your caller screener told me I got a short time here, but
It's all good.
you know, he's talking about the primaries. One thing that really stinks about it is you can't split your vote. I like this Democrat guy, I like this Republican guy, but I can't split my vote. You got to vote straight party in the primary.
Yeah. You want to answer
Yeah,
that, JB?
that's what I was just talking about.
Exactly.
It's better that everybody can vote, but you're absolutely right. People don't just want to vote for the candidates of one party. They want to vote for all kinds of different candidates, including independent candidates and third-party candidates. Right now, they can't do that in the partisan primary system, and that's what we're working to change.
So, Lloyd, please go to openprimaries.org to get more information. We're so grateful for your call. Yes, you are right. We are butting up against the end of the clock here, but we're really glad that you called. And, JB, if people want to reach out to you and they go to openprimaries.org, is there an email that you answer there, or is there people they can ask?
Actually, yes,
What's the best way?
info at openprimaries.org, or follow me on Twitter at JB Opdycke. That's JBOPDYCKE.
That's your Twitter.
That's
are you
my
a big
Twitter.
Are you a big tweeter?
I am a modest
You're a
tweeter.
modest tweeter. Okay.
No Twitter storms coming from me.
No storms. Thank you so much, Lloyd, for the call. You have a great night, okay?
All right, thank you. Later.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Thank you. Later. All right. We've got to get to a couple of these and then do a couple of those. JB Uptake, thank you for all that you're doing.
My pleasure, Jen.
We will have you back as the months progress and see how things are doing and see how you can give us a grade. Let me know if we're improving anywhere, any of the other states that you've broken through, right?
Sounds good.
Give us the exclusive, though.
I will.
If you go on another station, we'll be very upset.
You got it.
Okay. This is the Jen Weigel Show.